Show's Inner Child Podcast.
Stephen, you had mentioned puppets. Are you considered like a creature designer for some things? Because I know I was reading, I think you did like a big battle with Hela in Thor Ragnarok. What exactly is that called with what you did in that scene? And can you tell me about it at all?
Yeah, so absolutely. So being an animation supervisor, so in on Thor, I was a lead animator. So in that, I was responsible for coming up with some of the choreography on the digital side of what Hela was going to do in that fight. On We Could Be Heroes, as an animation supervisor, I work very closely with the creature department. I don't design any of the creatures. I do have some input on, aspects of them, whether the mouth should be bigger, how they should move, how they move. Yeah, exactly. How we would like them to move. This project was such a pleasure because we were working with some great guys in the creature department that we worked really closely with them to make sure the tentacles could move the way that we wanted them to make sure that the squiggles were able to emote in the way that we wanted them to. Weta's so known for their very realistic faces and their very realistic rigging and puppeteering of all these creatures with very complex muscle systems, very complex facial systems. I mean, if you look at a project like Planet of the Apes or Gemini Man, it doesn't get much more realistic than that in the face. And this project was a little bit different for us because on the squiggle creatures, we don't want it to look realistic. We want to be able to stretch that mouth out. We want to be able to open those eyes and emote. If he's looking out the side of his face like that, open the left eye really big and push that eyebrow up just so a kid can understand that right away. So those are the kind of constraints that I work with. I don't do the work itself for the creatures, but we come up with we work closely with that team to make sure that we can get what we need so we can make it move the way that we want it to.
Dan, you in post then, do you kind of accentuate a lot of those things? Because like Steven said, you don't want it to really be grounded in reality. You gotta really stretch those things out. Do you feel like when you're doing your job that you're kind of doing what could be considered like another edit of the film? You do this in post after Steven. Do you feel like you have to go through and accentuate any of the effects to make it more zany and more silly?
Sometimes, yeah. It's everything's based on what you're going after, and really this is a lot of with the collaborative thing. I want to make sure that I'm getting Steven's idea across. If he's making a silly face or he's making an angry face, and then we design the look of the shot that hides the emotion, or somehow the lighting, the way it shadows the face, then you lose what that character was doing. It really affects it. So we need to make sure that if Steven is going for a story point idea, that our look matches and tells that story point idea. So very much has to work all the way through, and lighting can shape a character the same way a face can shape a character, and the mood of the scene has to match what the idea of what the actor is portraying and what the filmmaker wants that story to be. So a lot of them interconnect a lot more than people would realize. It's a lot of back and forth of like, hey, Steve, I know you did this thing and it looked super funny. It's super funny, but this is actually a serious moment, and I like the way I have it. I can't do that. And so sometimes it kind of goes back and forth where like you're doing an animatic and it looks really funny and we go through the story, but then we'll a lot of times show the director that option. They'll go, you know what? It works better funny. Let's go with that. And like we'll start redesigning the look thereafter because of always original intent, and people come up with new ideas. And yeah, I mean that's part of the fun.
There's one shot that actually this maybe you just reminded me of it when you were talking about the serious moment and the integration with some of that stuff. There's a shot, if you watch after the final battle, I won't give away too much, when there's a moment when the tentacles are high-fiving each other, And this is the funny part of
show.
work when you have to legitimize what was shot on set that day, and everybody's high-fiving each other, and we have the tentacles slapping the hands, and there's one guy screen left. If you look at him, he puts his hand up, but there's nobody to high-five him, so one of his own tentacles comes and high-fives himself. So those are moments when you can have a little bit of fun, when you go, okay, how are we going to handle this? We don't have enough tentacles, nobody's high-fiving him. Okay, we'll just have him high five himself. And it's just a funny little, these funny little Easter eggs that you can kind of get in there. And I think that's part of our job with, especially, in motion and in lighting and comp with Dan there. Like we work closely together to make sure that we can legitimize anything that was shot on set. So for example, Noodle's arms, when we are taking those arms over, he's got these wild arms, but Dan and I would talk a lot about how much of the arm we would like to replace, where we should replace it, where it's going to stretch, what we can paint out, what the best way to approach these things are. And then I'm also looking at his body movement going, okay, if he's shifting his weight like that, we should feel some of that travel through, like a wave, down through his body, and just making sure that we can get the best performance possible. And that requires a lot of, well, especially when we're working from home, that's a lot of Dan and I calling each other going, hey, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And that's, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Now you guys both have an extensive list of credits, and I know that every time you work on a project, you really learn a little bit of something and take something away with you, with every experience that you have. And now with this project that you've done, I know you worked on it maybe a year ago, but do you feel like, can you recall any specific experiences, any learning experiences on any of your other big projects that kind of helped get past things that would have otherwise been more challenging for you on this project?
The idea of coming up with effects things for powers and stuff, obviously Marvel films have had a large effect on that for us. A lot of things we do on this were new and very different to how Weta works. It was a lot more run and gun on things. The colors, the palettes of things, we look at them and we're like, you sure you want us to dial that to 11? Like, we don't normally do that. Like, that is interesting. And that's definitely something we'll take away from this project, was that, there are times that you can keep raising the volume on that, and you can keep designs really, really simplistic in a child sense. And Robert was amazing at dialing, like, I know it looks funny now, but it will make sense once it's in the film. And he nailed it there. The things from other projects that we consistently learn is obviously a huge amount of creature development. Continues on how we do these things, like Noodle's arms. Weta has done Fantastic Four movies before, so we're very used to like people stretching and things. And so a lot of the powers and things relate to things that we've done previously. Integration of, hey, Lavagirl's outfit actually has a constantly moving lava flow. And how do we do that? And we've done those things in different styles before, but it allows us, when a director says, hey, can we do this thing? And you're like, yeah, sure. Can we have, a 29-foot megalodon shark that's full of, that's flowing liquid metal? Like, yeah, no problem.
And it looks awesome. The sharks, like even the water sharks, look awesome. But Stephen, it seemed like you had something that you wanted to say too about one of your experiences on your past projects that helped you with this.
Yeah, I think every project gives you something different that you can learn and take from it. We are, like Dan kind of touched on with the color saturation, turning it up to 11. It's interesting. Similarly with animation, we're so used to grounding things in reality in Marvel movies in particular, with how hard someone's hitting somebody. We want to make people look intimidating. We want them to look heroic. And in a movie like this, it almost harkens back to my early animation days when I was doing more cartoony things, because this is more about, this is a movie for kids. So when you see the squiggle monster come out, you want it to look intimidating, but you don't want it to be so scary that kids don't want to watch it or get frightened of those shots. So it was a lot of make it read, make it look like it's scary, but don't make it so scary that they don't want to see it. There can still be a little bit of goofiness to it. And it was really cute with the guppy stuff when she was riding that liquid metal shark. I mean, that's a funny sequence even to get, when you get storyboards for that and you go, okay, and then she just makes this liquid metal shark and rides it and chases these squiggle monsters. You're going like, okay, how am I going to make this look good? That's the first kind of thing. And then, we flipped it and made if you watch the squiggle, one of the animators, Jerry, did a really great job of the two squiggle monsters. They come in and one of them pulls the other one in, and they're quivering as just before the shark comes down. And it's that kind of stuff is really funny because it's maybe something that we don't typically do. We're usually doing more scary things or more realistic things, and this was a little bit of a chance to play. So this was a bit of fun for a lot of the animators to kind of. I was blessed with a really great team that brought a lot of really creative ideas to the project, and we're able to get on some projects you're very limited in what you can do, and on this project Robert was so collaborative. It was really easy to be able to pitch an idea and get something in there, and the animators I think really relished that.
Literary Joe's Inner Child Podcast.